This is DJ LockDown coming to you from Solano State Prison. Thanks again for listening to us on KALW 91.7 FM, or you can find us on YouTube. Okay, you just heard One Nation Under a Groove by Funkadelic, What Good is a Castle by Joe Baton, and The Prayer by Joe Baton. Those songs right there go out to my Theo Woody, rest in peace. Damn, you know, those songs right there always remind me of cruising in a nice lowrider all over the neighborhood, especially cruising the beaches where the parties were always live. Now, it may sound like I'm going off my theme, but these stories I'm telling are what made me the man I used to be. And these memories are the reason my theme is forgiveness and redemption. And those memories always remind me of those words my mother and grandmother used to tell me. You know, mijo, we raised you to be a better man. You know, I remember when I was young, about 5 years old, you know, it was a trip because my dad, he couldn't take care of me and my two little brothers. Early in the morning when my grandmother went to work, he came and dropped us off at my grandmother's house. I always remember this because, you know, we were hungry. He couldn't feed us or nothing, so, you know, my grandmother had fruit trees in the house, of apple tree and some lemons and oranges, so I got a rake, and I went over there and hit the fruit down so we could have something to eat. You know, about an hour later, the next door neighbor came outside and asked who we were, and we told her our grandmother lives here. So she ended up calling my grandmother, and my grandmother came home from work. And she ended up taking care of us, say, for the next, like, 10 years, you know. She quit her job just so she could take care of us and raise us, you know. And this is the reason why, you know, I want to pay homage to my grandmother, because of how she treated us and took care of us, you know. You know, I remember a few times, my grandmother would show me how truly wise she was. And if I would have listened to her, I wouldn't have spent the last 30 plus years in prison. You know, with me, family comes before all else. That's how I was raised. And even when I messed up, my family was always there, especially moms and grandmother. There were a few times when I'm ironing my clothes, getting all Bonnarooed up and about to go out and party. And when I'm about to leave, my grandmother would tell me, mijo, why don't you stay home tonight? I have a feeling something's gonna happen. You know, me being me, I'd hug my grandmother, kiss her on the forehead, you know, just like tickle her and make her laugh, tell her, don't worry, grandma, you know what I mean? I'll be all right. I'm just gonna go to my girlfriend's house and kick back there. I'm not gonna do nothing. You know, the next thing you know, I'm calling home, letting my mother and my grandmother know I'm in jail. I've always hated those calls. And as I grew older, I've always regretted not listening to my grandmother. But now I have a chance to redeem myself. Forgiveness, I know and believe in my heart, both my grandmother and mother are looking down on me from the sky with forgiveness in their heart. So that right there gives me the strength and drive to achieve my goal in honoring my mother and grandmother. Forgiveness and redemption, that's what I got to do. Now, no matter how many times I got in trouble, my grandmother was always there for me. You know, I remember this one time when, you know, I was getting out of jail. The family was there, about to have a dinner for me when I came home. And I got home and I walked through the front room and everybody's like, be quiet, be quiet. You know, she's in the kitchen and she's cooking the dinner for me, you know. And when I go in the kitchen, I tap her on the shoulder and she turns around and she like, oh my God, mijo, you're home, you know. And she starts smiling, and I tripped out because she didn't have no damn teeth, you know. And I started laughing. What happened to your teeth, grandma? You know what I mean? And it was funny. And she just started crying and gave me a hug. And I told her, man, what's up, Gummo? You know, that's how I gave her a nickname like that. And yeah, I just remember that story right there because that was a good, happy time right there. But all right, let me get back into my next song. I know my grandmother ain't gonna approve of this one, but you know, this is the music that I listen to, and that this is what defined me. It's Freaky Behavior by the Barcades. This is DJ LockDown. You're listening to the Uncut Playlist.